I think that's what it was alluding to. We just have to be careful as we're doing things. We might be able to share it with one another. But certainly other people, I put nothing on Facebook that I would ever be concerned with that anybody would find or see or whatever it may be. I'm not going to talk about people on it unless I'm commending them. I think that's all the attorney is trying to tell us, is we have to be careful. We could be sued for different things. Social media has cost people their marriages, cost people their jobs or promotions, and many people have been fired. Not just Facebook, but all of the social media tools. That's all.
My question though is, and there's no sense going, I mean, I think we've all heard the warning, and I would think that, you know, before any of us post anything else on any type of social media, that we're gonna think twice in doing so. So, you know, all the gibberish back, you know, that's, I don't think we need any more of that. But where my concern is, I'm still, from, I guess, a legal standpoint, I know you said Thursday, Michael, but, and maybe I'm premature in asking the question, but I guess I'm just concerned in where we are with all of this. Because in my mind, Yuskevich is still our city manager. Margot, although a document is signed, that document is not in effect because this council didn't authorize the signing of that document. So, you know, we've got Thursday night approaching. Do we still need to hold that meeting Thursday night? Is she an employee of this town as we know it this moment? You know, I mean, I'm basically, I really don't know which way, where we're at this stage, and it does bother me.
As I mentioned earlier, I would be prepared to have an opinion letter ready by noon on Thursday. I think that it's important that the council meet Ms. Anderson, as they had agreed to do, and to discuss with her what has transpired over the last week now between the council's offer to her of a job as an independent contractor, the preparation of documents, and her signing an acceptance of that together with the city clerk and the mayor's signatures. All right, I think that we can get you some information that will allow the five of you to make an intelligent decision as to how you want to proceed at that time. Mr. Geis had said, I think there's a way to correct it, and I think that's true. There's a way for reasonable people to get together here and decide on how the city's going to process this interim manager period. Because it's obvious that there's been acceptance of Mr. Yuskevich's severance agreement. He was issued a partial payment, if I understand correctly, Mr. Treasurer. Correct? Yeah, so there's already been some performance here.
If I may, and Johnny alluded to this before. The deal was, and again, we talked about having a formal background check done either by you, Mike, or whoever, but it was to be requested by Ms. Anderson. And then she was to go in front of the board, and we were to question her. Pending the passing of the check and the interview, then we would offer her a job. And in so offering her a job, Mr. Yuskevich would train her, orientate her for a period of time. Once he was satisfied or we were satisfied with that, he would then leave. Obviously, none of that was done. And papers were signed and things were done. And again, so his leaving was contingent on us hiring Ms. Anderson. That didn't happen.
The motions were made. Jim, you have the motions? Those have been transcribed from the last meeting.
No, Mr. Treasurer did fax it to my office. There was, this morning, I got them this morning from last week's meeting. And I read the motion carefully. It comported with the documents I prepared. I believe Ms. Whitburn had made the appointment, and Ms. Anderson accepted. And so, again, I'm not prepared to go into every factual specific here, but I can have a summary and recommendation for the council by Thursday, which incidentally, I believe, was the dates that had been indicated in the press release, and it must have been agreed to in the terms of the motion that was offered and supported by a 4-1 margin, including by Mr. Coleman.
I've got the motion here if you want to hear it, as was emailed to me.
Right, Jim, this is the official, then please read it.
It said it was moved by Whitburn and supported by Farrell to buy out the contract of current city manager Yuskevich with 9 months of severance pay at $42,800 and pay out of personal leave time the amount of $3,295 contingent upon the appointment and acceptance of Margot Anderson to come aboard as an independent contractor interim city manager with compensation being $1,500 per month with no other compensation or benefits for a 6-month period beginning December 18, 2015, and 6-month interim period. The city will have the opportunity to hire Ms. Anderson in the city or extend and so on. That was
And the second motion.
Right, and I think Ms. Nelson admitted that the motion didn't contain those requirements. So I was never told of a background check requirement. I was never told of any other contingencies other than your appointment and Ms. Anderson's acceptance.
The motion did not contain language regarding the background, that is true, but that is true. However, talking about closed session.
Right.
So, again, I'm repeating myself, Your Honor, but I would suggest that we have a meeting as scheduled, that Ms. Anderson be invited here to meet the council and answer questions. And the council will have, well, at least have a business day. I have this brief done to review and to openly consider at that time.
So who are you saying is our city manager right now tonight?
I'll give you my opinion on Thursday.
Well, I mean, it would be nice to know what you mean.
All right.
Please.
Right now, Mr. Yuskevich has signed a severance package. He has offered his letter of resignation. Is that correct?
Yes.
We have a letter of resignation on file. We have a council motion by 4-1 vote to offer him severance, and he has accepted partial payment on that severance. So there has indeed been the formation of a contract and the acceptance of the contract and partial performance. He has offered and you have accepted his resignation. At this time, there is uncertainty whether Ms. Anderson is in fact our manager because of these disputes over exactly what the council intended coming out of closed session. But it's clear the instructions were that Mayor Whitburn would appoint and Ms. Anderson would accept the interim appointment, and those two things have been done. Other conditions of the contract have not been satisfied, such as a payment to her of $1,500 per month. So there are those nuances that I'm not fully prepared to talk about at this time.
Well, according to our bylaws, Mr. Yuskevich's resignation has not been accepted because that cannot be done until the following meeting. So he can send in his letter of resignation, but it is not accepted until the following meeting, and that is in our ordinance. According to the letter that you sent, or what was stated in this letter from Pence, you said or Miss Anderson's contract is valid.
Based upon the motion that the city approved, the council approved by 4-1 margin, it was, the offer was going to be by Ms. Whitburn's appointment and by her acceptance. That is what the language of the motion states.
I don't think that that's exactly what the language of the motion states. Because I do have a copy of the motion as well, and the motion went, then John, is pretty much what you said. So I'm going to make the motion that we will be buying out Michael Yuskevich's contract with 9 months severance at $42,840 and a payment of accrued personal time off at $3,295 for 120 hours of time. This is contingent on the appointment and acceptance of agreement with Margot Anderson to come on board as a contract employee at $1,500 per month beginning the date of contract agreement. At the end of the 6 months, we have, as a council, the opportunity to take her on board as a full-time city manager or extend the contract service timeline or release services 30 days prior to the end of that 6-month interim employee status. We will go out and solicit bids for others to apply for the city manager to review. It doesn't say that the manager or the mayor can appoint her. It does not say that. Once again, we cannot accept the letter of resignation until our next business meeting. He can quit and leave, and that's fine. But if he did send in his letter of resignation that was dated on, I believe the letter was dated on the 9th for his resignation, which means he left, and you said we accepted it. My only other question would be, why are we paying him for the remainder of last week when he was quit and left and not in the area? And my understanding is that he filled out a time card for full work for last week when he wasn't even here. I don't quite understand that portion of it.
I wasn't here during any of the discussions when Mr. Yuskevich, Mr. Trudgeon, and Ms. Whitford reviewed the minutes from the council meeting and compared them to the instrument or document I drafted, and the document was then accepted by the mayor and the clerk and Mr. Yuskevich. And I wasn't privy to the details regarding the arrangements for payment or partial payment.
But I don't understand how he can fill out a time card for days when he quit and was gone. I mean, if he was gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, how can he fill out a time card and be getting paid for those full days? I don't quite understand that portion of it. I mean, to me, that's not right. I mean, I don't get paid unless I work. Unless of course I take a vacation time. But that's not even vacation time for him because we paid out his vacation time. So he doesn't have vacation time.
Well, we have it though, I believe.
Yeah, we have.
We paid 120 hours.
Of
And
vacation
again, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't
it
either.
happened, you know, where it came from.
There's so
we don't
many
know at this
things
point.
that we don't.
But the contract allows a maximum of 120 hours.
That's what he was asking for.
Right, but I believe that the amount that he actually has on the books is greater than the 120 hours.
That's not what was brought up. You know, and also,
No, but it goes to answering your question, if he can be on vacation,
you can,
then he can, you know, even though he's told 120, he still, if he has hours remaining, could be on vacation
But you-
if he has
so you can
vacation
quit
available.
and then take
That-
vacation.
that's a
Usually you
whole
have
noth-
to take vacation before you quit. I mean, that's kind of, that's in my
That's a
temperament
whole
climate.
other issue
Yeah,
that
I mean,
you're
It's
right,
just questions that I have.
but
That's-
you asked the question,
I
I
take
gave you a
vacation and I
possible
quit.
answer, that's all.
Yeah, I'm just not quite sure how that all transpired.
Let me give you an example of what occurs occasionally in the schools. An administrator will retire, what have you, but take the pay over the next 4 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever it may be, to get them to a higher pension.
I understand that, but you know what? Then they say, I'm retiring in a month, but I'm taking this next month off to get paid for it. They don't say, I
Yes.
quit today, but I'm taking vacation for 4 weeks. And we pay them for those 4 weeks. That's not right.
You know, there's no doubt then that there are several questions that need to be asked and answered. But going through tonight, I mean, all we're doing is speculating about possible, you know, the
I'm just
possible
trying to
answers.
bring
So
up what I know of.
I think,
You know,
I
we
think
were
we all have
told-
those types of concerns, Linda, and I join you in them. But until Michael gets back here and he can be asked those questions, or unless it's done over the phone, so we know where we are, because I believe those answers are gonna have to play into whatever type of opinion you come up with regarding Margaret. I mean, in and of themselves, they're probably separate, but for us to consider and look at the bigger, broader picture, we're gonna need to know what the status is on both sides, or at least what they perceive.
Well,
That
then,
status to
another
be.
question I had is, but when he left, the, employees at the city, and I'm speaking of Ann and Jim, were told to tell the public if they called that Margot is our new city manager.
I've heard
Well,
that.
then the next day, the same employees were told to tell the public, no, Mike's on vacation. I mean,
Well, I'm not sure
I-
about who you're referring to, but if you're referring to my comments to staff, my comments to staff.
no,
was
not
that-
yours,
Oh,
no.
okay, well, then I'll
She's
tell you
referring
anyways.
to my comments for
Mhm.
the following day, and that was because when I left, I asked, he said he was doing this and then he was going to be leaving on vacation. And I said, well, then we'll see when you get back so we can finalize all of this. And that was the end of the comment. And when Jim called me the next day and he said he had inquiries, and I said, well, that's what he told me.
But-
I'm only reflecting what I was told.
But didn't you also signed this resignation letter, didn't, no, Jim did.
No, Kathy did
Or
too, I
Kathy did too,
believe.
yeah. So,
Yeah, Kathy
so
signed,
you know he resigned.
or he signed the new contract, you know, it all encompassed. So I'm sorry.
Well,
I
he
didn't
had paid
interrupt
time
you.
off, so he was using that, you know.
No, I don't think anybody knows what's going on. I have no idea.
My understanding, we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday. Are we continuing with the meeting for Thursday and then inviting Ms. Anderson to come in? Or are we going to wait until we hear back from council on what we should do? So we continue with the meeting right now is still on.
I'd recommend, Your Honor, that we follow up with the meeting on Thursday's plan. Invite her to attend, and the council can meet her and take questions.
We have an opportunity then to go back into closed session and discuss as a council and come back out then after that.
When is Michael supposed to be back?
I'm not sure, I don't know.
Mrs. Johnson mentioned it'd be the 20th or 21st, I believe. I heard you say.
21st or the 22nd was the date she had his court date, and I don't remember what